How goes things, you beautiful people? I'm Jake the Ashen Hollow. So you probably saw the title of this video and are quite confused, rightfully so, and I promise I will get to that, but I first want to preface this video with something. One of my most popular theories has been that Velka is the Furtive Pygmy and or the Witch of Izalith and so on and so forth, so it may come off as odd that I'm doing a video which disregards that and gives the Furtive Pygmy something else. So I just wanted to point out that this isn't me disregarding my previous theory. I still think that it makes a lot of sense and thoroughly enjoy it myself, but Dark Souls is notorious for having one thing sound plausible 100 different ways. It's just how it goes. So that is what this is, just another theory, one of many. It's alright to have as many theories about one thing as you want. That's what makes this game so great. So let's get into it. And also, let me preface this with, I know not everyone believes in the Christian God. I understand that. This isn't a video to force beliefs upon you. Just looking at the stories from Christian faith and how they could have been an inspiration for a story arc in Dark Souls. Believer or not, I think we can all appreciate that Dark Souls takes inspiration from several different religions. Alright, so let's get into it. So I was sitting in church the other day. Wait, what? Yes, I go to church. Yes, I believe in God. But Jake, you swear very often and are sometimes an asshole. Yes, I know this. I'm not gonna go into a big spiel. We all fall short, and it's context that makes words bad. The language of your heart, if you will. Other than that, it's just a noise you make with your throat and your mouth, and can't be bad if you don't fucking intend it as such. Anyways, I was in church the other day, and my pastor said something that made my mind wander. Whoops. He said that it's important that we understand what the Bible tries to point out several different times, and that is that Jesus was completely man as much as he was completely deity, which really piqued my interest, and of course the word deity triggered my Dark Souls OCD, so I started pondering. The Furtive Pygmy, whose entire identity has been shrouded in such mystery, who procured the Dark Soul and spread it to create humanity, would probably be something along the lines of both deity and human. I mean, think about it. The Dark Soul is humanity. It's what makes a human human. So having just a fragment of this Dark Soul makes you human. Having the original bits likely does as well as more than likely making the Pygmy powerful enough to be considered a deity, especially to humans. So let's look at all the ways the Pygmy is similar to Jesus from the Christian faith. I'd like to believe that in this story, Lord Gwyn plays the role of Herod the Great, the king of Judea. Let's briefly look at some minor things that I believe helps back this up before we get to the major point. Both Herod and Gwyn died by their own volition. Herod by suicide, Gwyn, well, basically that was suicide, at least in the sense of the word. He may have had ulterior motives, but dude still offed himself. They both ended up not having their bodies buried in their own coffins, which is kind of a random point, but still interesting considering the other similarities we've gone over and those we will. So before and after Jesus was born, his family was on the run. When the prophecy reached King Herod's ears that a savior would soon be born and that he was the true king of the Jews, in fear of being dethroned, he ordered the execution of all baby boys in the surrounding lands. To me, this was reminiscent of Gwyn clinging to the fire in fear of the Age of Dark, in fear of his Age of Fire being dethroned. Gwyn's church, the Way of White, participated in undead hunts. The humans or undead would one day produce another Dark Lord to challenge the Age of Fire, and Gwyn couldn't have that. So they were hunted down and even corralled into these undead asylums where they could do nothing but rot. Well, so they thought. Wink, wink. But to me, that is such an immense similarity. Both of these kings can't process the thought of being dethroned, so they do everything they can to prevent it, even if the means are unspeakable. Oh shit, that's actually kind of like the Lothric bloodline too. Well, we won't bother with that for now. Finally, the last interesting thing regarding the similarities of the character between Gwyn and Herod is the copper coin of Herod. While the top side doesn't look very interesting, I couldn't even tell you what it means, that's not really what I wanted to showcase. But if we look at the bottom, yeah, that's quite interesting indeed. Now I'm not saying, boom, Gwyn is Herod confirmed, but I think we can appreciate these similarities as interesting. Now, in reference to the dark, like Koth, the Sable Church of Londor and such, just all the things that are about humans and hollows and the like, what is it they are always doing? They're waiting for the Dark Lord to rise anew and usher in the Age of Dark, to vindicate them from this devastating world of sin, to bring the humans to where they belong. Now, if we're talking about Jesus and Christianity, what does that sound akin to? The second coming of Christ, right? Christians have been waiting for Jesus to rise again and save the believers from the sin of the world, to vindicate them and usher them into paradise. Now let's look at the Dark Soul itself. The way it has split and spread itself throughout humanity, there isn't another soul like this in the game. Sure, we know Gwyn shared pieces of his soul, but not on the same scale that we see humanity being spread. It was split among almost countless number of humans. And who's to say that it isn't still splitting in each of its human hosts? It's definitely a unique phenomenon in the Souls universe. I'd almost call it a miracle. Which made me think, of course, of Jesus. During Jesus' life, he came across a large group of people comprised of the poor and the hungry and the sick. There were 5,000 of them, not including women and children to be precise. Jesus intended to feed these people, but the only food his disciples were able to scrounge up were 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Not nearly enough to feed 5,000 plus people. Yet, Jesus broke the bread and spread it to the masses, allowing everyone to eat their fill, and even had enough food left over to fill 12 baskets. The miracle of Jesus being able to spread to humans what they need is quite symbolic of the way in which the Dark Soul has the innate ability to be nearly infinitely split amongst humans without losing its value. Finally, there is of course resurrection. We know that according to Christianity, not even death could keep Jesus down. Similarly, the undead can never really die, only slowly lose more and more of their humanity until they break and go hollow. Though we only know of a single time Jesus was resurrected, the concept is at least similar. So I think when looking at all these things combined, it isn't unreasonable to think that the story of Jesus could have been an inspiration behind the story of the Pygmy. But I want you to think of this video as more of a prologue. There is a much, much deeper theory I'm working on that connects the story of Dark Souls to some of the story in early Judeo-Christian beliefs. More specifically, the war between the Archangels and the Fallen Angels and the Nephilim and things of that matter. So that is one reason I didn't bring Manus up in this video, since I know when people talk about the Furtive Pygmy, the hot topic is Manus. But I guess to give you a slight taste of this bigger theory I'm working on, I believe Manus more so plays the role of the Azazel goat. Basically, Azazel, who by the way fits the role of Koth almost perfectly. To put it shortly, he's a fallen angel who teaches man the art of war and women to be deceptive. He kind of taints the traditional view of what humans were when they were quote unquote sinless. But anyways, there was a priest with 2 goats that I believe are symbolic of the Furtive Pygmy and Manus. The first goat, playing the role of the Pygmy, is sacrificed on behalf of all humanity to set them free from sin so that they may enter their true home. The second goat was for Azazel. The priest put the sin of all humanity onto this goat and then led the goat out into the wilderness to Azazel to be lost, in the hopes of distancing the corruption of humans from their kind. So we know Manus was kind of in the middle of nowhere, if you will, before he was dug up, which I think plays perfectly with Koth being like Azazel, that the wild, unkempt corruption of humanity was put into just one man and sent into the wilderness. It's kind of like Koth having a ticking time bomb, which we know a certain toothy serpent certainly tricked the people of Ulasil into releasing what would be the uncontainment of man, also known as the Abyss. But that is just a very small taste on what will be a much larger scale. I even have plans to meet up with some people who have studied ancient religions as to help me make more sense of some of the connections, because using Wikipedia is kind of like taking everything with a grain of salt. So I want to get a little better perspective on it. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you look forward to the next. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.